Welcome back to another episode of Psychocinematic. Today, my guest is Scott McCord. You might know him from a show called From. He plays Victor, which is my favorite character. It's not just because we share the same name. Scott has been working in the film industry for a few decades, and he has a huge portfolio of being a voice actor for animated children's TV shows. He's been in things like Paw Patrol all the way to Total Drama Island. We dive into some of that in this episode, but mostly I got to ask him about From, and if you watch From, you probably also have a million questions about it, and so it was really satisfying to be able to pick someone's brain from the show, especially someone who is such a pivotal role. So with that, Scott McCord.
Thank you for this too. I just want to say that right off the top because I admire your work. I
Well,
admire
thank
what
you.
you're doing. Thank you for the support of the show, of course.
Yeah, of course. And, thank you for taking the time to do this. This is the hardest part about the podcast is getting people to come on. Yeah, whether or not they see your message or if they have
Sure.
any interest, that kind of thing. And it's just something that I don't have as much time for now that I have a kid to like go and
Yeah, of
watch a bunch of shows and movies and then reach out to people that, I'm inspired by or, like I love their project that they're working on, that kind of thing. And
course.
because like you just don't hear back from a lot of people. But I'm so glad that you saw it. And I have to
Yeah.
say, the work that you are doing, as Victor on From, like Victor is probably my favorite character, and it seems like he's the
Obviously.
hardest role on the show to play. That's at least me looking at it from someone who's not an actor, but playing a man who is very much a child inside is it just seems difficult.
It's got its challenges, but they're beautiful. I always refer to them as beautiful challenges.
Hmm.
Thank you for that. Thank you so much. I mean, I think everyone at the ensemble has, as you've seen this season, stuff's cracking open. People are cracking apart, and whether it's Donna, Julie, and everybody has their set of challenges and their layered work that they're all doing too. I couldn't be more excited and proud of this cast this season because I think everybody's just kicking ass. It's great. I
Yeah.
mean, would you agree? There's been some
Yeah.
great scenes
Hmm.
with these actors. With the stories and the milestone sort of moments that they're tackling.
Hmm.
And still have this epic 10 coming up. Which have you seen? Have you seen 10?
No, no, not yet.
Oh, you
Uh,
haven't seen 10.
yeah, I'm all up to date with the stuff that's come out, unless they released 10 and I didn't know about it.
No, 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 no. It's coming.
Okay.
It's
Okay,
coming on
cool.
Sunday. This is it. The season's gone by fast, man. That's the
Yeah,
thing that
yeah.
I'm finding weird is that I was talking to Catalina Sandina, who plays Tabitha,
Hmm.
and the other day, and she said, "It's 10. We're already at 10." Like
Hmm.
it feels like the season all the excitement of the season kicking off just happened. It goes so fast.
Yeah. Yeah, well, so you brought up the cast, and I'm curious because I was like, From has a massive cast,
Yeah.
and I was thinking, maybe there's someone that comes to mind with you that maybe you haven't shared a one-on-one scene with yet, and or maybe someone who you didn't share a scene with, in that kind of intimate context for like a season or so. And I'm just curious, like, what that's like when that finally happens, and if any of those characters comes to your mind. Because I would imagine, like Victor is there, for like a town meeting or at Colony House or something, so you might be there with those characters, but you don't get to take your character and their character and then mesh, and so they're all developing as the show goes on. Does that
As
make sense?
It totally makes sense, and I'm
Okay.
glad you brought that up because, yeah, it can get a little lonely at times.
Hmm.
And that's not to diminish any of obviously the great scene partners that I've had so far. Like Simon Webster, who plays Ethan, is just an extraordinary guy, and I love our scenes together. We had a little less to do this season, but on the other hand, I never thought that Sarah and Victor's paths would necessarily cross. Or it's not that I didn't think that they wouldn't. It's just that I guess I didn't think of it, just because of the trajectories of everybody's story. And when that was revealed in for episode, was it 3? I guess I show up at her door. Uh, I was so I was so excited and delighted. I mean, I'd met Avery. We all do know each other. We've all we hang out while we're shooting. But I have yeah, I mean, most of my work days are with a very concentrated, sort of smaller, you know, group or person. I'm usually just with one other person. This season, of course, I also got to spend a lot of time uh, with Robert Joy, who plays Henry, and he was, I mean, he was just amazing. And the two of us just got to actually get to know each other while we were getting to know each other in the storyline as well, and trying to find those moments where we were learning how to be a father and son again. So
Hmm.
that was really super exciting. Yeah, you bring up a good point though, Vic, that there's like not too many crowd scenes with Victor. You know,
Hmm.
probably not too many nights that he shows up at the bar to say hi to everybody.
Right.
And that's, I think, just part of who he is. But I mean, lots of people that I still haven't seen that I would love to do scenes with. Are you kidding? I mean, there's Marielle and Christy. We've never shared the screen. It was exciting to get a little moment with Kenny this season in the most
Hmm.
recent episode. But we'll see where it all goes.
Yeah.
We'll see where it all goes. If we get our season 4, then I'm only assuming as we get closer to getting out of this place or whatever that means,
Hmm.
that it'll kind of bring us all together in some
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. Well, so I have so much to ask you about From
Yeah.
specifically, but I kind of want to start a little earlier with just your background. I was looking at your IMDb, and
Yeah.
you've got a pretty large portfolio of work, and especially a ton of children's TV that you were voice acting in.
Animation. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, that that was one of those unexpected sort of career things that happened. I was always auditioning for things, but never really putting a lot of focus and energy into, say, becoming a voice actor. I was doing some commercial work, some commercial radio, that kind of thing. And yeah, and then can't think of the first the first series that landed. But anyways, it started to develop, and then yeah, suddenly there was this voice career that was happening. It was so grateful for and so blessed for, because they do a lot of animation out of Toronto.
Mm.
A lot of people know that goes worldwide, and it's a great gang of writers, directors, talent, productions, and a great circle of people and actors in there that we all got to work with each other on different projects. Another big ensemble show that I did that is still ongoing is a show called Total Drama Island, which is
Hmm.
a series that's actually set in Canada, and it did really well worldwide, you know.
Hmm.
Um, and every now and then I get to go back and still revisit and play this character of Owen, which I think is, man, we must be going on 20 years now or something.
Yeah, that was a show that never really showed up on my radar when I was younger, but my wife was a big Total Drama Island
Oh,
fan. And
yeah.
yeah, so when I saw that, I was like, you know what? Like the guy who plays Victor, Scott McCord, I was like, and Paw Patrol and like all these things. And I'm sure Paw Patrol will be something that'll be on my TV in a couple of years,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
once my son, yeah.
It's another one that's has just kept going and going and finds
Hmm.
audiences and newer audiences, and that's awesome. What's your wife's name? Can I ask? Are you willing
Yeah.
to?
Jessica Hughes.
Hi, Jessica Hughes. It's Owen.
I'm about to show her that. Yeah, she'll freak out.
Well, thank her for watching that show too.
Yeah.
It had also landed on Netflix at one point, and
Hmm.
I remember a few years ago, like my daughter, to get back to what you and I were talking about earlier. Um, it's always interesting, and I'm learning, and as we go here, especially with From and the success of From, and her being at a certain age now where she's aware of what it is that I do, and I think most children are very nonplussed about the whole thing. It's a little weird when you're a parent's an actor in a way, and they'll, and of course I never. I have no expectations in terms of her taking anything in or seeing anything or whatever, right? But it's very funny because she watches stuff, and I came home one day and she went through this little spell where she was watching Total Drama, and I think fully aware, this is going a few years back now, fully aware that I was playing a couple of those characters. And I thought that was so interesting that she just started to like the show, and I think because it was on Netflix. And anyway, the joke around the house too is that with my wife is that she always says, you know, honey, even when you're not here, you're here. I can hear you in the other room.
That's funny. Yeah, that's gotta be weird having a kid that then comes online to understand what you do. And I'm guessing, because you were saying earlier she's
Yeah,
14, she
yeah.
hasn't seen From, or have
She
you guys let her watch Scene From?
just
Okay.
started to crack it, you know, and that was, and you know, and again, I always, you know, in these situations, as you do, I think you just sort of, you take a step back and you just let it be what it's going to be. There's no
Hmm.
expectation. She gets excited about the also the success of the show. So she'll like, you know, she'll come running out and she'll be like, Dad, the show's blowing up on TikTok right now or something, you know?
That's
So
awesome.
that's exciting, you know.
Hmm. Yeah. So I'm curious, where is From shot?
It's shot in Halifax in Canada, so it's
Okay.
on the it's literally we're right on the coastline, and we live all kind of stay around Halifax, this in the city. The studio is not very far away,
Hmm.
and the little town is an actual town that they built,
Hmm.
which is about a you know about an hour from the city.
So does the
Uh,
studio just own that little town? Like they just bought some property and then threw up a town?
that's right.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Yeah,
And
and then the
it,
studio, of course, the does you know where we do the interiors for the show is all that's in a separate building, which is about yeah, it's very close to the city as well. So
right.
yeah, we're just bouncing between both those places, and we live out in Halifax for about 5 months of the year, and we endured the winter this year,
Hmm.
which was challenging. But I think in the end, it's great seeing it, and you've seen it too now. Like there's just some epic shots. I mean, it was so beautifully shot to begin with. But the weather definitely added I think a story element to it all. You know.
Yeah. So with the town, all the buildings are facades then? Or are there some that are actual sets that
Essentially,
you would go into?
it's kind of you get both. You kind of get a little bit
Okay.
of both. Like some of the houses, you can actually go in and walk upstairs and whatever, you know.
Hmm.
So they are built like as houses. Uh, but there are other structures there that yes are like kind of a more of the facade.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Colony House seems like it might be a difficult one to like if that was a real set. So is that all in a studio?
studio interiors and then, yeah,
Okay, gotcha. And
yeah.
then on the topic of the weather, the times that you guys are filming when it's foggy, is that all real fog? Was that all there? Because it just seems like fog can, just dissipate without notice, and
Yeah,
then
and
what?
be there. Yeah, interesting, right? There was a scene that we did in season two. I did with Jade and Tabitha, David Alpay and Catalina, and we it was a morning shoot that we were doing, and it was a scene where Jade is kind of chasing after me out of the diner, and he kind of gets in my grill, and it's the first person to really get in my grill and go, "Listen, you got to help us."
Hmm.
Everything everything that whole thing. And when we were shooting that, if you look at that, like we couldn't have asked for a better morning, Vic. It was like just dense fog all through the town, that was there. And they were like, yeah, this is great. Like special effects. You couldn't even get it this good, you know,
Yeah.
through effects. It's just, and it added this really, eerie tone to the whole thing, which was beautiful. Yeah, it can kind of drop in and drop out. We're sort of perched up in the town. The town is kind of up a hill a little bit, so we get a slightly different kind of weather system, I suppose, there.
Mm. Do you guys have a problem with people coming to try and look at the set?
Yeah.
Are there always people sitting outside of the boundary lines or whatever?
That's a great question. To my knowledge, there is, it's a secured place, but I think people have managed to. I feel like I've seen some pictures online and whatever. Uh, people can get somewhat uh, close and get some pictures and stuff. Yeah. But as far as I know, there's security. I don't think people are supposed to be
Hmm. Gotcha.
in Frontville.
So what's the day in the life as one of the main actors, like while you're shooting a season? Like what
Yeah.
does one day look like?
Um, it because of the fact that we are such a large ensemble cast, and outside of say our the leads, the rest of us who are considered to be regulars on the show, it's a pretty kind of scattered thing because you're not not necessarily shooting every single day. You know, again, it just depends on the storyline and the block of shooting that you have and the number of days that you have. Especially this past season, it was challenging because of the weather. Sometimes the schedule would get often flipped, and even on the day, you know. A story that I like telling is that we had just started a new episode, and I was at home doing my homework, and I got a call, and they said, "Listen, we're going to have to bump up some scenes to tomorrow." And I thought, "Okay, I'm on it. Said, "Great, I'm in." They're like, "Yeah." And then about 20 minutes later, Vic, no joke, they called again, and they go, "Actually, we're going to come pick you up now, and we're going to try and shoot one of these scenes tonight." So we were all in a place of this in this past season of just being up on the work as much as we could be, because that could happen. Anything could get shifted at any time because of the weather, but it all worked, and it all worked great. And I think that, you know, it definitely kept us on our toes and charged, which was really great. Halifax is a really beautiful place, and when we're normally shooting there in the summers, a day in the life of the actor could also be, you know, when we all hang out in various ways, is that, you know, there's so many great things out there where you can surf, you know, horseback riding. There's all kinds of stuff, you know, that we can do out there. The city itself is really great. The people there, great. You know, and yeah, we usually have a lot of fun, you know, with that time out there that we do have. And because it's such a large gang, when everybody gets together, like, it really feels it's a party, you know, everybody.
Nice. Yeah. So I was going to ask that, like, when you're not in an episode very often, like, you just have to hang out in town. Is that like kind of the thing? Like, you can't leave. There's no flying in, flying out just in case they need you for something.
I think it just depends on a number of factors. And I think maybe weather, you know, weather can dictate, you know, whether you can do it. But you know, there is some capability to, you know, get away, and I've made it home a couple of times, you know, during a break, to spend some time. But with the recent season, it was a lot more challenging just because of the flipping schedule, you know, flipping schedule.
To shoot one season, how long does that take?
I would say with a 10 episode season, it's about, I want to say about 5 months.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of makes sense, because you guys are shooting like 60-minute episodes on average, like something around there. And it's honestly kind of impressive that you guys can even do it that quick. And then, so then after you wrap filming, about how long after does it air on TV?
Well, you know, I was just thinking about this morning before I was going to speak to you, you know, about how the trajectory of this show since it started was, we were still in the midst of the pandemic when the show started. And so that had its set of challenges, but we did wonderfully. And as a lot of shows did. And then I think that first season came out, I want to say maybe about 5 or 6 months later, within that time. It seems like that always seems to be the thing, right? So this season, I think we wrapped in May, and I feel like it's a little sooner. They dropped it in the end of September, wasn't it? Yeah.
I think that sounds about right.
July, August. Yeah. So they were, you know, I feel like they'd really they got it. They were really cranking it this year to get that to happen. But if you remember too, we had the strike, the SAG strike. And so nothing happened with From for a year, but the show had landed, you know, the second season had landed. It was on TV, but we didn't see each other for a year. And then we came back in December of last year.
Do you guys do group rehearsals, or are you just all kind of given scripts and then it's like, we'll see you for blocking out the scene later?
Yeah, you got all the good questions today, like all the inside workings, the mechanics of From. Yeah. They're both, you know, so both, everybody kind of, you know, that goes off and does their own work, of course. And then there are some script readings that have happened as well, where everybody gets together. So
then, like, how early before the season begins filming are you given a script to, you know, kind of go over your lines and all that?
I would say on average, you know, you have them maybe a month before, 3-4 weeks before.
Mm-hmm.
And then for each block of episodes, I feel like it's a few weeks before we start shooting. That's usually how it goes.
Gotcha. So this was the one question my wife was so curious about, and I was like, "I probably won't tell me too much about this, but like, how much do they tell you about the trajectory of the story? Like, how much do you know that's going to happen? Like, have they told you how this all ends? Like, do they have like the end in mind? Those kinds of things."
Yes, and this question is asked often.
Mm-hmm.
No, we have no idea. So much so that I had no idea that there was going to be a father character this season. I had no, and then when they established that, when I read that a few weeks before we started this season, I was going, okay, like let's see where this goes. And of course, in my brain, I'm thinking, am I going to meet him? Nah. But then I get to episode 4 and I go, oh, okay, he's arriving. So, and then I start thinking, well, if I'm going to meet him, maybe that'll be in a few episodes, but we'll see how that. Like, then I get episode 5, and it's like, no, it's happening right away. You're going to meet him right away. So we never know, script to script, nothing. And that to me though also adds to this. And I know a lot of the other actors have talked about this as well. I think certainly to the thrill of working that way, because I think it creates a certain reality that for us as our characters, that's just sort of the way we'd be living, right? Like we wouldn't, it's just literally you're so going moment to moment because of everything that's going on. There's this kind of like slight chaos to it all that in working that way that's actually really helpful, I think.
Yeah. So when you're finding that out about Victor's going to meet his dad,
yes,
is that at a table read or do they just send you the script?
That just landed in my lap. Yeah, I just got the script and then opened it up and went, oh, okay, this is happening. Yeah.
Yeah, I was curious about that because I'm sure you've probably seen that video of like the Game of Thrones cast doing the table read, and Kit Harington sees that Jon Snow is gonna, spoiler, kill Daenerys. And
I haven't seen that actually. But
oh, really?
Oh, okay. So
yeah, he like covers his mouth.
Right.
He like, I think he starts crying, just stuff
God.
like that. And I was like, is that real? Like, or is this just like really good promo for the show, and that kind of thing. And so I wasn't sure, like, are they telling, because I would imagine if you're acting on the set of From, it's hard to not be like, come on, like you gotta give me something, tell me something. Like I want to know where it's going.
Well, I always love telling this story too, is that there's, of course, a lot of us too, and I don't do too much of this because I don't think, Victor does, but there's a lot of theorizing that goes on, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are some predictions. Sometimes you go, like I had this idea last season when there was the reveal of my sister, right? When I opened the trunk and I realized I had this memory about Eloise. I thought that was going to happen this season, maybe, or that something like that. And even last season, I thought there was another storyline. And so sometimes, I'd meet with John Griffin, our brilliant creator and writer, and I think a lot of us do this, and I'd throw that at him just to see what his reaction is. I'm like, I know what this is. This is going to happen. And he has this thing, and he stands by it. And he does it every time, where he goes, "You're going to ask me something about the show. I'm going to have this one reaction. I'm going to look at you and go, huh, that's it." And sure enough, I got the huh. That's all I got. So, and like I said before, like out of all the ideas that I've all the things that I thought could happen, I've been wrong about every single one.
Yeah.
John and Jeff, those guys, Jeff Pinker, they just miraculously, I don't know, they just have that way of doing that. They know, I think they know their milestone events of the season, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
But I still think that there's this sort of looseness to the storytelling. I think that they can, like they're going to move those things around, and they're going to try different things. And yeah, I mean, I would imagine if you asked John now if he thought the story, say, would be right where it is right now at this moment with these things happening, 3 years ago, he might. I would imagine he would say, well, no,
Yeah.
He's writing and kind of writing with us and for us as we go along too. I think that's just, he and I were just talking about that the other day, about the evolution of the characters has so much that idea of the collaboration that happens there. It starts with him, and then we come in, and then as he's kind of watching us and seeing what we're bringing to the table, and then he's kind of like, it ends up becoming this confluence of I guess of this character evolution that happens, that you're both kind of going in this direction. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, and I will say and sing his praises again. I mean, I think there's some great stuff for these characters this season. And, and I can only speak for Victor that I've just been over the moon about the storyline that I've been given. And I would have never expected this story with Henry to have happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I want to get back to the theories, but first, does John Griffin say that he does know the end in mind, or has he not said anything like that?
Oh yeah, no. Like, he's got the whole, like,
okay.
Yeah, they know what it is.
Okay.
None of us do. And so we never know the arc of the season. We never know what our character trajectories are, what, the arc of the storylines is going to be. And again, nor do we know script to script what's going to happen.
Wow.
Yeah,
that seems like a hard way to operate, but I had also read that for the filming of Scream 5, they gave the cast scripts with fake endings so that they could keep the identity of the killer a secret until the end. And there's something really fun and special about that. And also it takes a little bit of the acting out of it. Like, there's some reality that you just did not know.
The mask comes off and you all go, holy shit, this is who it. That's great. I like that. Yeah, I mean, I think there's been filmmakers throughout history, right, as we know, who have done certain things like that. I love that kind of stuff. When I did the scene with Henry where we met, that was actually the second scene that we shot together. We did not invest any time in really getting to know each other. We met very briefly, and then we kind of kept our distance. And even that day that we shot that particular scene, we did not see each other all day because we wanted that moment to be as alive, obviously, truthful, and as new as it could be.
Yeah. And what scene did you shoot before you guys meeting?
It was actually the scene right after that, which is interesting, which is the scene where I think it's episode 6, and Henry is in my bedroom waiting for me to come in, and he's trying to find me, and I'm coming in to pack my bag to basically go to the tunnels, if you remember that scene. And we have is a really beautifully written scene where he asks about this old rusted toy car that I have, the story behind it. And the whole scene was about these two characters trying to, navigate this lifetime lost between them, and find this moment where, Henry finally goes, look, I'm going to come with you. And so we did that one first. But again, we didn't rehearse, spend time together outside of that shooting day, and then just came in and did it to try and keep it as real as possible.
Why did that one get shot first?
I think it's just the piecemeal nature of the business. It could be, and I don't know the exact reason. I mean, it would be ideal if they could have done the other one first, but at the end of the day, that scene with Henry and Victor meeting, it just is what it is now, and it is because we shot that other scene first. You know what I'm saying? So, so I'm grateful for all of it. I and I had such a wonderful scene partner in Robert that we just approached all that work just so, consciously and delicately, and treated it, so that we could just give that meeting what it needed.
Yeah.
So he's just he's just so wonderful. He's so great.
So back to the theory thing. My wife sees on Facebook, she's not a part of the group, but there's like a From Facebook group where everyone just shares these theories. And there's some that are like, that sounds pretty probable, and would never have thought of that. But then there's others that like people make fun of the other people whose theory is just so insane.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
so I should have prepared more because I joked with her that I was going to run them by you. But the one that I can remember, and there's a lot of these people making fun of other people doing this, that
Yeah.
Boyd is Donna's daughter. You know, that's like, you know, people get so out there with the stuff. But the best one that I had heard was about the tree, the
Oh,
faraway tree, and
what is it?
basically that like when you go into it,
Yeah.
that you have to have like an intention of where you're going or where you're thinking. Because when Victor first shows off the tree to Ethan, you
Uh,
know, he like demonstrates it, throws, you know, a rock in
oh,
or
the
whatever, and
rocket.
it
Yeah.
falls. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I forget the man's name who ends up in the pool, but I think he says, "I'll see you poolside."
Yeah.
You know,
Dale.
Tabitha wanted to go to the lighthouse, and sure enough, she got like basically right there, kind of thing. So, it's kind of like an intentional thing, and that I could see, but I don't know. I guess time will tell.
Yeah. Yeah. We, I mean, my wife, loves the show, and she gets into that stuff a little bit too. Like she gets, you know, we get our kicks out of the theories. And again, I don't know, like none of us know what the end of the line is. We don't know, you know, we just know what we know as we shoot these
Hmm.
episodes. I know that there was this thing that was going around, still going around, I think, about this whole thing about Victor and his dad. They were trying to figure out how old everybody was because they thought that we looked the same
No,
age, you know.
that's funny. Yeah.
Yeah, which I thought was really great. I listen, you know, I've seen some of the theories, I've heard some of them, and I mean, there's so many great ones. And again,
Hmm.
none of us know what it is. But there seems to be, you know, what everybody's bringing into it is everything from like children's books to mythology to, you know, a possible war that's going on in there
Hmm.
to aliens to this to that to whatever
Yeah.
it is, you know. So I'm uh, it's exciting to see that kind of thing just like spinning like a hurricane out there. You know?
Hmm.
And I also understand, you know, the audience's frustration with not not getting,
Yeah.
you know, these like big answers, you know, to satisfy this the wet, you know, to whet the appetite or whatever, you know.
Right. And it's so hard not to come up with crazy theories about it because just, you know, every episode they might tie up one thing or give you a little bit with one thing, and then there's like five more things and you're like, "Oh my God, like now it's just getting bigger. This changes." Like by the end of the ninth episode of season 3, my wife and I are like, "Is Tabitha his mom reincarnated?" You know, and then it like ends. I'm like, "Is Victor's mom?" Like, you know, I don't know. You know, it's like so it feels like at this point anything's possible. Maybe not that, but
I agree with
it's
you.
just so crazy.
I think it is, you know, yeah, a lot of people are weighing out that last moment, you know, with Tabitha, and they're going, is she Eloise or is she the mom?
Hmm.
Um, you know, but there's this episode that's coming up. You know, for me anyway, was you know, when I read it, is pretty epic. There's some great
Awesome.
stuff, you know, in there. I think that will excite and and uh, and also bring more questions, you know, at the same
Hmm.
time, you know, so as the show does.
Yeah. And you know something I just thought about From is that I find that with shows that I really enjoy, when they're coming out every week, I still find it hard to get back into it on the day that it comes out. But From is not that case where it's like, all right, sweet, it's Sunday
Uh,
night, let's go, let's watch this, you know, and then we're
you're
getting a
right.
little bit
The
more.
prime.
Yeah. But even
Yeah.
like some really great shows out there, I'm just like, God, I just wish they would drop the entire season so I don't have to wait a week and then like, you know, have to remember what happened last time. This, you know, those kinds of things. But
Yeah. And you know what's interesting, and I know some of the gang feels this way too. What's great for us is it because we're not, again, to get back to that idea that we're not all on set together, but we is when I'm watching these episodes back, you know, and seeing them, is that I'll start to remember certain things, you know, certain scenes coming up. But of course, I haven't seen them shot, so I don't know how they're gonna they're going to turn out. So, Dale, that's a great example. That was there. We knew about that. And we obviously, when we shot that particular episode, but seeing it done and executed and seeing that final scene was really, like, sometimes it's quite shocking for me too.
Yeah.
Right? And I even know what's coming, So I remember watching in the previous season, I was watching the episode where they were performing the autopsy on the monster. And I remember, this is so funny, right? Like that. I remember the scene in the script. I and I was with my wife. We were watching it together, and I remember she doesn't want to know anything. So even when I'm shooting, I never tell her, and it's hard to do, to get on the phone with her at the end of the day and go, I can't talk to her about who I'm working with or anything. She doesn't want to know anything. She doesn't know any storylines, And so it's great to watch it with her and have all those surprises happen. But this was funny. That autopsy scene was happening. And if you remember, at one point, Christy goes in with some sort of a tool, utensil or whatever. And the monster kind of like, does this thing. Yeah. And both of us completely left off the couch, in that moment, because I completely forgot that was happening. So I do actually get, I get to kind of enjoy it, like the audience gets to enjoy it in a way, even knowing what's coming up.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Story-wise.
And I remember with that scene too, I was saying to my wife, I was like, how are they not going to strap this thing down right now? Like, how do you know this thing's dead? And she's like, oh, it's fine. And then it does that. I was like, I told you. I mean, it ended up amounting to, they were safe, but yeah. And then how about you as an actor, when you watch back your work or listen back to voice acting, those kinds of things?
Yeah.
How, like, do you critique your own work, or do you just try and like, I put myself out there and like, I just got to let that be?
It's, I'm glad you're asking that, because, I'm certainly, I don't, I'm making it sound like it's a really easy thing to do. And it's not. It's challenging. What I enjoy the most is just seeing all the elements coming together. That's like Chris Hilton's music, obviously John's writing, the story, the editing, you say Jack's direction, and the scenes that I haven't seen. Like, I love just seeing all of it come together. And of course, it's like kind of like hearing your album for the first time mixed. It's kind of it's a really exciting thing. So that I can get into. Watching yourself is it's hard. It's challenging. It's so I can be there, I can do it, and then there's times where I don't need to see it, and I only say that because it can be difficult, because, as and I'm sure you've heard a lot of actors saying this, it's like an actor's never, this is just the artist's thing. It's like we're never satisfied with the work. It's not about kind of watching and going, okay, I did it, great, done. I don't know, maybe having my wife there does make it actually a little easier. So I don't know.
It's interesting that you say having your wife there makes it a little bit easier, because I find that if I am watching a video that I made with someone, like, I don't know, I flush and I'm like, oh, get me out of this room. Like, and I'm fine with like hearing my own voice. I'm fine with seeing my stuff, but being with someone and like now they're judging the thing and I'm watching them and I'm like, oh, I hate this. And then all I see are flaws.
Oh yeah. Right. I think I've definitely been there. For sure. And bless her. She's like my number one fan and so supportive and whatever. But she, she's just also so involved in a way. Like, I almost feel like she's a part of it. So that's another thing, is it like, I think that's where that, that word easy is a tricky one. I don't want to say that I feel like any of it's easy, because I know exactly what you're talking about. I think you just, in the end, and I'm sure you do with this too, it's like you just feel all the things, you put yourself out there, but you have your audience as well. That is such a blessing, and as this grows for this show, which even this season, the show worldwide has done so well, and the fans are so loving and generous and excited and giving, and I certainly do not try to take any of that, this for granted. It's a real it's a real blessing, and it's also really exciting to see something work. You
Yeah.
know, I've seen your stuff, Vic, and I think you got great interviews. You
Thank
got
you.
lots to be excited about and be proud of, man. This is
Thank
I
you.
feel very honored to be a part of this today. So thank you. And I
I
love the
appreciate that.
psychocinematic. Can you talk about that for a second? What that's where
Yeah.
that came from?
Basically, when I was coming up with this podcast or thinking of it, it was just because so somewhere along the way I noticed that my attention span to watch movies was just gone. And I was like, I used to love watching movies. Like, what's my problem? I was like, oh, it's the
Yeah,
phone.
yeah.
And so I was like, I'm gonna watch a movie I've never heard of, basically once a day, every day, for a
Ah,
while. And I started falling in love with psychological thrillers. And so I was like, oh, like, and no one that I know talks about these movies. And I didn't have TikTok or anything because this is like back in 2021. I didn't
right.
even realize there was like really that big of a market for this kind of thing,
Yeah,
on social media and whatnot. And so I was like, I want to do a podcast where I can just share all my thoughts in one place. And so
yeah.
there was
Perfect.
that. And then so it's just kind of like psycho for like psychological thriller,
Yeah.
and then like psycho because like crazy about movies. But
You're
yeah.
another person that's crazy about movies. You get it. Me
Hmm.
too. You
Yeah.
know, we still love here too. My family and I love going to the movies. Like I love
Yep.
going to the
Same.
theater. We here, there's some great cinemas here in Brooklyn. Um, the Nighthawk Cinema is one that we frequent that I absolutely love. I love the experience.
Hmm.
I also just love their programming and what they do there. You would absolutely love it.
Yeah.
Because they pull out some great, they have these series that run, of course, like a lot of these cinemas do that. Great 35 millimeter prints of
Hmm.
films that you never thought you'd ever get to see like that.
Yeah.
Again, let's say, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? I get the pleasure of, taking my daughter to see some of these things.
Hmm.
Say, listen, let's go have this experience. You should see this movie this way.
Hmm.
Of course, I try to let her have that experience, but
Yeah.
I love doing that. I get it.
Yeah. No, I've thought in my head, like, man, if this ever got so successful monetarily, I would love to be able to like have my own little theater here in Reno, Nevada, where I live, and
Nice.
like be able to, yeah, like play some of the new movies, but then also have like my pick that's playing every day,
Yeah.
and like just a different classic film, like,
Yeah.
and also play movies that I haven't even seen yet but have been on my list forever, like Lawrence of Arabia. Like I need to see it but I just haven't gotten around to it yet, and it's like I would love to see it on a theater screen.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah.
There's a tradition here at the Nighthawk that they do, that we loved and we've done a couple of times, and they did it every Halloween, where they would do Night of the Living Dead,
Mm.
the original. And I can't think of the name of the orchestra, but they're like, anyway, there's like a live band, like a
Wow.
live band in front of the screen playing the soundtrack through
That's
the
crazy.
film, like they do on sort of a larger scale with John Williams stuff and all that. But they do it in the theater, and they're just right there in front of you. And we did it like 2 years in a row,
Hmm.
because we let our friends love it. We go, and you get to see this classic film and see this great print of it, of course. And then the music, the soundtrack, that great soundtrack is being performed right live, right there in front of you by these guys.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah. What a
yeah,
special
I
experience.
champion that idea. I think that's a great idea, Vic. And you know what? And something in my gut telling me you're going to do it.
Yeah, well, I hope so. And the other thing too is like if this podcast ever starts doing really good, I would love to actually have like a podcast studio space rather than my home office. And
Right.
then like cuz I'm kind of on the way out to Burning Man, and I was like, I'm
Oh
sure
wow.
plenty of filmmakers and whatnot go to Burning Man. It would be sweet like that week,
Yeah.
like, hey, come stop by for an hour before you head out there. Let's
Sure.
record a podcast. Like
Yeah.
that would be awesome. But yeah, I got lots of dreams, lots of goals, and we'll see if I can
Just
get
keep
there.
going. You
Yeah.
know. I mean, if you look at John Griffin's trajectory too. I mean, here's a guy who came up with this thing
Hmm.
called
Yeah.
From, and his story as a writer is all of a sudden, can you imagine? He's writing, executive producer,
Yeah.
creator of a show that's now, it's like he just did it, he did
Mhm.
it. And um, I champion you for that. I like this aesthetic though. This is one of the
Thank you.
things that appeals to me whenever I watch your stuff online is that I love that neon. Is that actual neon that I'm looking at there?
Yeah, yeah, that's a I mean I ordered it like off Amazon because it was just like kind of like
Right.
the cheapest one and they actually had the font that I used for the logo. So I was like, oh,
Oh,
perfect. Like
that's
that
great.
works out.
Yeah,
Yeah. So I
great.
don't know that it like is actual neon. It might just be light strips inside of
Oh,
the
okay.
thing, but
Right.
that actually might be quieter than an actual neon sign. So that that might be better. But yeah, and then I would just love to like because I'm just kind of like collecting all these movie posters, and I try and to like with guests who are willing, like send them a poster and like, can you sign it and send back, like add
Yeah.
to the, especially if I ever had a big studio and just like floor to ceiling like crazy posters, like, oh yeah, I remember that podcast, I remember like
Yeah.
that stuff sounds so cool to me. But I so back to episode 9.
Yeah.
Jade said an analogy that I absolutely loved, comparing Victor to Tarzan, and that he
Okay.
got that way because he's been surviving,
Mhm.
and you also like can't make him out to be an ass because he's not like everyone else. He doesn't know how to use the fork,
Right.
because that's just not how it's happening.
Right.
So while you might not have referenced Tarzan yourself, I'm curious if you referenced movies, shows, or studied anything else to kind of embody that child in a man's body thing, because to me that sounds really hard to deliver.
There wasn't a lot of character description for Victor in the beginning, He was this guy that had been there the longest. I guess he lacked social graces. I think that was one of the things that they described him. But he carried around a lunchbox and kind of spoke in this kind of cryptic, way. I sort of saw him as he was definitely his own sort of creature of this place. I remember in the beginning, and the real seed of the beginning of it all is his trauma. Was I did know at the beginning. I was aware that he was uh, left alone in this place after a traumatic event. I landed on kind of an animal form. I sort of saw him as this owl, this sort of in-weathered creature of this place that had learned to adapt, which is what so much of the show is about. And as to whether he could see a little more than everybody else, there seemed to have this, because of his memories. And John described him in the beginning to me as an unreliable narrator to himself, which is still in full effect as we go through these episodes. It was like he had this memory of Jasper, but and I don't know if I can say this here, but obviously it wasn't Jasper in the end that he was
Mm-hmm.
having the memory of it. So I think that's also part of Victor's struggle, is that he knows that his memories aren't completely reliable.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, I just really, I did a lot of work, and with my coach in the beginning, of just starting there, and with those few things, the trauma, the owl, and we were doing a lot of work to just find this organic process of kind of getting in there. And with each new script, there's always some aspect, John's great writing that gives me another path to kind of carve with him, And I remember a real significant one for me was to get to this childish regression or whatever it was, when I was in the caves with Tabitha and I saw Jasper for the very first time. And I don't know if you remember this, but Victor ejects himself from that moment in a
Mm-hmm.
and then when he's found, and I remember this written in the script, it was just written in a couple of lines that Tabitha finds him, and then he's curled up in a ball, and I don't remember how John worded it exactly, but that he was almost like this helpless, scared boy. And I remember that was another big kind of seed for me. That what in that moment, not even knowing what Jasper meant at that time, and John didn't tell me anything about what Jasper was, or I don't even think I knew they had a name at that point. But the work that I had to do at that point was like, well, then how do I get to this? And this is actually great that he gave me this. So this is clearly something that triggers a regression, or whatever you want to call it, of some sort. And that's a place where Victor, this is where all the trauma lives.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, again, I just feel so blessed to be given this enigma of a character. Like that was really, Vic, at the beginning was like the first time I sat down with him, I'm like, okay, how do you play an enigma?
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
there's a big question, right? But of course, Victor doesn't. It's not about judging the character in that way or me seeing it like that. I just have to. I think that traumatic event at the beginning, of the story was a great starting place, and then it's been more about sort of, again, because we're not doing let's say a play where we know what the story is, we know the trajectory, and we see where everything sort of ends up here, and we're given all this information to sort of start building from. It's kind of, we're all moving together, and it's growing and evolving as we move. So there's these revelations about our own characters that are kind of coming at us in little bits and pieces as we go, and in
Hmm.
terms of how they adapt and how they deal with these circumstances. But no like major, like I would say, like movie characters or things or whatever. Like there's so many influences that can come from so many places. Sometimes I find a great piece of music like by Wagner or something like that, and I can kind of like, I don't know, that'll get something out of me.
Hmm.
Um, so many things.
Gotcha. So I'm curious, is there a director or actor or project that is like the dream for you to do, or have you already worked on your dream?
Well, I'm working on my dream for sure. And I actually,
Hmm.
matter of fact, I had that thought this morning as I was
Really?
walking my dog. I'm like, this is the dream. Like this is thrilling. And I love everything about it. And I love the part. Um, I mean, there's, of course, I think there's all these sort of obvious answers I could hurl out at you, that you would appreciate too. Like, of course, Scorsese.
Hmm.
There's so many people I would love to work with. Or Pacino, or Gary Oldman is one of my favorite actors. Mark Rylance. I would love to. I would love to do something with. There's a long list. Ellen Burstyn, Sissy Spacek. There's so many people, actors I would love to work with. Um, but we'd be sitting here for 4 hours. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm sure you do. You like think of all the people that you could get on your show, right? That you would
Right.
love to do on your show. I mean, like,
Hmm.
um, and here's the thing I will say though is that I don't think that any of it is unreachable. And I say
That's
that to you.
awesome.
I think that psychocinematic is going to blow up if it's not
Well,
already.
thank you. Because From has become more and more and like, exponentially more successful, it feels like as it goes on.
Mm-hmm.
Is your agent or manager just getting like way more calls than, maybe previously, like in like for things that aren't voice acting
Oh, I
for
see.
you?
I mean, it's so hard to answer that at this point because I mean, I'm being seen. I'm still, I've been fortunate to have the strike really, you know, uh, the strike is still, we're still seeing a lot of stuff falling out from the strike at this point. But it's been a good summer of some, meetings and auditions and just starting to kind of get back on our feet again. So it's sort of hard to answer that at this point because I mean, and I still keep thinking about this and we, we all keep talking about this too, is that there's work and it's happening and stuff's being shot. We got back to work, but I think that the impact of that strike is still
Mm.
there. So I think that still remains to be seen. I think what's exciting though is that it's, I'm seeing stuff getting made and and a lot of even just in my own my own circles, like friends of mine are being able to get their projects off the ground and whatever. So I feel like things are starting to kind of get back there. So it remains to be seen, you know.
Hmm.
And even with the show itself, if we get a season 4, I'm not even quite sure as to when that would kick off. Yeah, I don't know. Hopefully
Gotcha.
soon.
Gotcha. So my final question, and we can wrap this up, is besides a potential season 4 with From, what is next for you? Do you have anything that you're currently working on that's not From related? Like I've seen you post about Claudia, I think it is, and maybe you're working on other things.
Yeah, that was actually a really exciting. That was I'm part of the Actors Studio here in New York, and during the strike, uh, uh, SAG was very gracious and let us make a short film. There's a friend of mine that made this Claudia film that's just getting off the ground now in the festival circuit and is doing really really well. He's a great, wonderful human being and writer and actor and director. His name's Gabriel Furman. And so, yeah, we did, that's some of that stuff. Actually, Chloe, who plays Christy on the show, her and I made a short film during the second season. And we sort of took our time over the last year or so and during the strike to start, sort of piecing that together, because we sort of shot it over a certain period of time while her and I were shooting. And again, we were never in the same scenes together, so our days weren't really lining up, but we would find time to kind of like, Chloe would call me and go, okay, let's go out and shoot tomorrow. Let's do this. And we did an improvisational film, essentially, that's called Juliet at 2 p.m., which we are going to put out there very soon. And
Awesome.
And so, always making stuff. Being here in New York, there's always, I've got some theater coming up here in the new year. I've got, I've actually gotten back to, I'm a musician as well. And I had the joy of collaborating on a song with a friend of mine here named Roderick Hall, who is a wonderful writer and musician. And he did a show at the Bitter End this summer and invited me to jump up on stage and perform this song with him that we had written together and that I sang on. And that got me all kind of supercharged again. I haven't done that in a long time. I've been busy with with the show and everything else. And so he and I are now kind of working on our own musical project that way. So I've been here actually writing some music, which has been really great, really exciting. And then I suppose, the next bit of news, well, yeah, I've already started talking about this, is now we're going to see, I think in 2025, we're starting to book some conventions on the circuit. So we're trying to get some From action out there.
Nice.
On the convention circuit to meet the fans, because there's there's apparently been some requests out there. So that would be exciting. That'd be fun.
Definitely.
Going to head to Georgia in next May to do a Walking Dead convention called the Camp.
Really?
Yeah, but there's been some crossover there. I guess some fans of that show that dig our show. So there had been some requests there, and so I'm going to make an appearance there. So always keeping busy, yeah.
And it sounds like not just keeping busy, but just like keeping busy with the arts, theater, music, and acting. Like that's all really cool that you get to just kind of be enveloped in that world, and you just get to stay creative.
I think that's what it is, man. I mean, that, it's just something that try so hard as actors to and it's hard not to do. Of like, even when you say you finish shooting your show, you come home, there's still several months before you're back. So we all got to work. We got to do what we got to do. So you're kind of right back at the edge of that cliff again, going, well, what's next? And it's one of the biggest challenges of actors is not feeling like we're at the mercy of the business and not feeling like, we're sitting around waiting for the phone to ring. So, so that's part of it. And I think that too, I love having a creative life, and I'm sure you do too. And I feel like that's just something that's just, and some days you wake up, you're more creative than others, but I like to kind of all that going at once. And certainly being part of the actor's studio here is great, because that's sort of like, it operates as almost like it's been there since 1939. I think it is.
Oh, wow.
Just celebrated its 75th anniversary a couple of years ago. And it's still there as a place that we can go. They still have their actor sessions, and you can go in there and work on any number of things that you want to work on. And it's really kind of serves as an actor's gym. So I'm kind of working on something there as well, just to keep myself working on, as an actor and on the instrument as much as I can on the off season.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you're up to some really cool things. I'm excited to see episode 10, the finale. And, I feel like it'd be crazy if you guys didn't get the season 4. I'm sure that announcement's probably coming up very soon.
I feel the same way you do, Vic, and
Yeah.
I think it would be crazy. We all feel like it would be crazy if we didn't, but we'll
Hmm.
see. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
None of us know. We don't know anything. It's amazing that we can even get through these interviews because we really don't know anything.
That's funny. Well, seriously, Scott, thank you so much for taking the time. I appreciate it. And I'm sure the viewers were just elated to hear from Victor, the man
Uh,
behind Victor.
well, thanks for all the support. Thanks for watching. Thank your wife for me for
Yeah, of
watching as well.
course.
And of course, all the best. Good luck. I champion you as parents.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's just still so new.
Yeah.
You're also in that kind of amazing place, aren't you, right now? Where, and you right that I love to always talking about this, the changes that are even happening day to day.
Hmm. Yeah, it's pretty
Please,
crazy. I mean,
right?
yeah, he started crawling last month and now he's
Wow.
basically like taking leaps, like just standing on his own without holding
Oh,
anything. And so
wow.
sure, walking is going to be next month. And, it's already hard to wrangle him around here. So just life's going to get crazier.
It gets crazier, man. And then I'm not
Yeah.
joking. All that stuff that people say about it going fast.
Yeah.
You have a little one, you have a little one, you have a little one, and they're kind of growing up a little bit, but then all of a sudden they're in high school, and you're like,
Yeah.
how did that happen?
All of a sudden they're watching from.
That's right.
Yeah.
Anyway, you got time. Enjoy it. Enjoy every bit of
Thank
it
you.
as you guys are, and yeah, and get as much sleep as you can. It's a luxury.
Thank you. Yeah. I've come to learn that too.
Yeah. All right, brother.
All right.
Thank you
Thank
so
you. Have
much.
a good rest of your day.